That's a huge 10-4, good buddy.
Fantastic.
All right, so let's see. I took out the fire chief.
Okay.
I took out the health inspector.
Okay.
And now it's you. So that'll be enough for today.
Fantastic.
How you been?
Good. Yourself?
Good to see you.
All right. Excellent.
How's the old man?
He's doing well.
And the missus? I mean, your mom.
Very, very good. Busy.
Your mom, yeah, people should know she's the clerk, right? Town clerk?
She's town clerk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does a fantastic job. She does a lot for this island and the community, and
she does.
She's a very caring woman.
All right, now, before we get going, any word on the funeral home?
Still raising funds, as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
And not. I don't know too much more.
All right. Well, look. Where did your idea of bringing tiny houses? Is that what you want to do? You want to bring tiny houses here to Nantucket?
It is.
Okay.
So this is actually my third interview with you. About 6 years ago,
Yep.
we had done the interviews on the Long Trail.
That's right.
And the first town I came into was Montgomery Center, and that was on the south side of Jay Peak. And there's a guy up there by the name of Eamon O'Shea, and he's got a place that he rents out to skiers. And he's got these little one-bedroom tiny houses. And so that was the first time I'd seen a tiny house.
I see. Okay.
And from there, it kind of developed, and you start to see things on TV and hear people start to talk about
They're
them.
really popular as TV shows go right now.
It
you
is.
see them on that Home and Garden show all the time. Tiny houses.
And they just make sense. It's not something that everybody would be able to utilize. It's for a single person or a couple or small family, depending on what size the house is. But
why not just build apartments?
absolutely, and I think that's something that the planning board is actually working on now, is developing some apartment structures. But what it comes down to, and for me, is it's about home ownership and getting to that next level. And I see the tiny houses as being a stepping stone, and going from the rental market to essentially what's considered affordable right now, which is a $650,000 house. So that's kind of a large gap there. And
Sure
so trying
is.
to fill that gap and give
The apartments
people,
would be rentals. They wouldn't be condoed. They wouldn't be owned by people. Is that the idea?
I'm not sure what exactly
Okay.
they're
All right,
working
all
on.
right.
That's
But this would be another.
essentially another option to add to the toolbox.
Right.
There are a multitude of things going on right now through different organizations, like the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, Housing Nantucket, the Housing Authority. All these organizations have a myriad of proposals and options that they're working on to add more tools to that toolbox. And so I see the tiny house as being just another option that people have. And so just to kind of cut to the chase, when people hear tiny house, the tiny house is built on a trailer, and automatically the term trailer, I think,
Okay.
from what I've understood.
We're going to go in here, by the way.
Okay, great.
I haven't even been in here yet. Now, this is Sachem's Path. These are not tiny houses. These are good-sized houses, right?
They're good size. These are pretty average size for 1 to 3 bedroom houses. I think a couple of them might be 4 bedroom.
And is this an example of an area where we would do it? I mean, we'd need a piece of land like this to put the tiny houses in, or how would you do it?
Well, there are 2 different articles that I have in.
All right.
Article 1 is for a single tiny house on a lot, and that would apply to lug 1, lug 2, lug 3, the R5, R10, R20, R40, and it would be 1 single unit per lot. And so
okay.
this is a little different. This is a development in here.
Yeah.
So with the second article, Article 53, it would be for a tiny house village. And at the moment, I'm actually tabling the village idea, because I've been working with the planning director, the assistant planning director, the HDC, and we've been massaging the language of the articles and taking some citizen concerns into effect. And so tabling the Article 53 and just focusing on the single unit per lot. So that would be, like I said, any one of those zoning districts that I I had mentioned earlier that someone would be able to put up a tiny house.
As soon as you said this, I remember reading on Facebook how Linda Williams went into an uproar. She was like, there's no way, we don't need these. We have not covenant houses, we have secondary houses.
Secondary,
right?
tertiary
Tertiary,
dwellings.
right? So what's the difference?
Well, the difference is,
Right.
I think we'll get to the main concern was the fact that these houses were built on a trailer. And
okay.
so kind of getting back to that,
Okay.
the trailer conjures up these negative images of double wides coming to Nantucket, that aluminum siding, and that's just
We can't have those people here.
Yeah,
Are you kidding?
So, and that's just not the case. A tiny house, it's not like that. There's a definition
Right.
with my article that defines what a tiny house is.
Right.
And when it comes down to it, a tiny house is going to be no different than a Nantucket cottage. It looks exactly the same. And it has to go through all the regulatory boards, every process that anybody else that's building a house out here, they'd have to go through it. So it would go through the HDC, it would go through the building department, it would the health department, every single organization that we have to go through now, it would apply to the tiny house. The only difference is it's built on the trailer. So the issue, which I think is tantamount to having the trailer, is a trailer holds a title. So anything built on that trailer, the structure, the person who built it would have title to that structure. And the reason why I think that's important is it's a safeguard to protect their investment. That, let's say if I said, hey Gino, we've known each other for a while, you've got a little land that I might be able to build on, and this is going to be a short-term thing. Can I build this house? And eventually I'm gonna move it once I've saved up some money and I can afford my own property. And so we come to an agreement, and then something happens. One of the things that I included in the article is it would have to be owner occupied, and so that's I see this is for Nantucket people, and so that is definitely a major component of the article. And so by building that in, the being owner occupied, it's focusing on, it's not going to apply to everybody, but there is a large demographic that would be able to utilize the tiny house structure. And so,
What about the infrastructure?
infrastructure,
How do you handle that?
same as you would anything else. You'd have to tie into town water, town sewer, or onto the existing well on a lot. And if
Is it easier to tie in because it's a tiny house? than
it's not easier. It's the same.
Okay, it's the same.
It's the same, and
All
there's
right,
nothing easy.
How easy
about,
is okay? But I'm just a layman here. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm going to approach this from a guy who's going to ask you some questions. Wouldn't it make more sense if you had an area like we just went through at Sachem's Path, where there were a group of these tiny houses all in a neighborhood?
I think ultimately
Because
down the
that
road,
way you could put more in, you could make them more dense, and they would be more appealing.
I think that's a possibility. But for now, focusing on just one unit, see if the people of Nantucket find it something that will be useful and that we vote on, and give it a year, see how it does, see how it feels, see how they
Okay.
look, and then kind of expand on it from
Okay,
there.
okay.
And I think it would make sense, but the density becomes a question, and how you make everything blend in so it looks like Nantucket cottages, and so it doesn't change the landscape we have now and the way we see the different cottages, Monomoy Village.
Would these be
Codfish
considered
Park.
temporary?
Again, it plays back into the building department. You have to pull out a permit application. You have to go through the HDC, so you have to go through all the same steps, and it would be on a permanent foundation. So it's built with the intention of moving it at some point. Most houses that we build on Nantucket,
Yep.
well, essentially all houses we build on Nantucket, are built with the intention of never moving them. But as you know, the house has been moving out here since the 1600s.
Well, that's a good point.
And if you, in the off season, if you're driving down the road, chances are you're going to see a house being moved at some point.